Welcome everybody back to Boost in Motion, guys. It's been a minute. I actually want to talk about a comparison video. Should you guys actually purchase a 3.0 T or a VQ in 2024? A couple guys actually asked me this question and they wanted to know which one would be the best bang for its buck. So let's jump into it. Firstly, shout out to my whole Boost in Motion family. Much love. I appreciate you guys for the support throughout the years. Much love. Thank you so much. And if you're new to the Boost in Motion channel, today we're going to talk about infinities because, most of you guys are infinity lovers on this channel. But I want to put up this quick video from Go Racebox. Shout out to Hussein. Shout out to Alex from this tuning great company that's been in the platform for quite a long time. This is a manual swap Q50 with a 3.7 liter, the reliable motor. So this build actually has a VPF tuning custom G35 1050 single turbo kit with a 370Z manual swap with a stage 3 clutch, 1300 injectors, a Hellcat low pressure fuel pump, or there's no high pressure fuel pump. There's only fuel pump for these cars, and a Tomy single exit exhaust. Now, they're stating that on 9 psi, or pretty much on wastegate, the car made about 566 wheel horsepower. And on 13 psi, the car made about 663 wheel horsepower. And this was tuned obviously on EcuTech, and this was on pump E85. Now, let's just quickly shoot the video, and we're going to talk. I want to pause it right there. So now I'm going to be in the foreground and we're going to talk a little bit. We're going to cook. So right off the gate, you guys will sit there and say 3.0 T gang, right? And I will sit there and say this clearly to anyone's watching. A turbo car just has all the necessities for it to be a turbo car, right? It was built and engineered that way. That's why it runs that way. That's why everything is easy to tune and just put a flash tune on it, upgrade some turbos, upgrade the fuel system, and then you just continue to go. With the NA vehicle, naturally aspirated, this motors, this type of tuning, everything been out for decades now, right? Technically decades. Not the motor, well, technically VQ been out for a very long time. But on the 3.7, it's been out for, once again, for 15 years? Yeah, like 15, 16 years. So forced induction is nothing new to this platform. And over the years, the horsepower has gone up more and more and more. So we found out what the fail points are in the VQ world on how much boost you're supposed to run. If you're supposed to, does any of this affect certain amount of pressure that goes into the coolant system? If you lift the head, blah 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 blah. Right? There's enough data logging in time. Even though we could sit there and say the V3.0 T is new, it's not that new anymore. It's been out since 2016. We're about 8 years into it, and tuning has gotten a lot better in the last 4 years. Now, there's a lot more to go. But now, what is the honest question, though? Do we want to compare when it comes to, I hate to say apples to apples, because it really isn't apples, but a max effort stock block 3.7 versus a max effort 3.0, right? We have enough aftermarket support on 3.0 T side to sit there and think, okay, cool. We can get, number one, Z1 turbos. We know that Z1 turbos are going to yield us over 700 wheel horsepower. That is pretty much seal block and stock transmission, right? We know that we have to upgrade to the highest fuel pump because we don't want to have any fuel pressure issues. We're going to have to do low pressure fuel pump and other coolant modifications that are going to be necessary still. But once those things are in, the car is going to run pretty quickly. It's going to have higher trap speeds. We still haven't, we're in March right now, so we still don't know how good these Z1s are going to be at the track. At the track, we've seen 60 to 130s, which should translate great to the track. But we just want to see how quickly they get out from the stop. And from what everyone's telling me, these turbos, the Z1 turbos, don't hit aggressively hard like a pure turbo or even RT turbo from zero. They don't hit as hard because you literally have to close the wastegate and build that boost pressure. But that doesn't mean that the Z1s may not be able to catch up with a pure. We don't know. But nonetheless, we will see that in the next couple of weeks and even months as the temperature gets warmer, right? So we see where those are with just wheel horsepower and 60 to 130s. And at the end of the day, the car was engineered that way, right? We also do know that there are some fail points in the VR30, right? And there's also fail points in the VQ also when it comes to boost pressure. So both platforms or both motors still have these specific cooling issues that can exist. Now let's go to the VQ territory. It's been out for longer. We've been boosting these cars for a lot more longer, from the 3.0, the VQ 3.0 DEKs and everything, right? These motors been being boosted. And we can see consistently that 600 wheel horsepower is pretty consistent on a supercharged and a turbocharged VQ 350, 370, whatever has a 3.7 in it, right? But 600 wheel is pretty common on E85. You might even be able to push 93 on 600, but let's just leave it at E85, 600 horsepower. Now, this is a 6-speed manual one, and from what I can see here, it did about 546 wheel torques, which is right around where the tuners on 3.0 will usually put their stock transmissions at. So this is a manual car, so they can probably definitely go up on torque because they have a stage 3 clutch, but it's just that we don't want the torques to go too high because we don't want to lift the heads on the VQ. Now, I used to be called boosting the budget, even though now I own a Mercedes E63, and at some point you guys are gonna know I actually own a second car too. I didn't tell you guys yet, but it's not nothing for this channel. It's actually just as my daily driver. But when we want to sit there and compare now the price points, right? Both the 3.0T and the 3.7 could be picked up for about the same price from a dealership or from an owner. They're very similar in price. It's just that there's going to be a little bit more massaging to do with the VQ than the VR. So just off the top of my head, let's think about some numbers. We have the 3.0T where we have Z1 turbos. So it was like $4,000, right? No core charge, $3,000 or $4,000, right? Then we have high pressure fuel pump, the best one, $2,000. Low pressure fuel pump, that could be from $200 to $300 to $500, depending on which one you want to go to. But you want to make sure the fuel system is running right. You want to get your heat exchanger, of course, and maybe you want to add the extra pieces, the tank, the air to water intercoolers. This is if you want to go the whole shebang, right? You're going to be spending probably $15,000 just on like parts. Just close to $15,000 in parts and tax, and then you have to pay someone to install this and tune it. So just off the top of my head, you could be spending between $12,000 to $18,000 depending on labor and tuning and everything, just to make sure that the 3.0T makes 700 wheel horsepower on Z1. Of course you get the reliability of the turbos, but let's just leave the reliability out of it. But nonetheless, you'll hit 700 wheel, and you invested about 12 to 18,000. I'm saying that as a variance because if you want to buy some parts, you could skip some things here. You don't really need necessarily every single thing there. You could still keep the stock air to water intercoolers. You could just do just the heat exchange. You don't need the tanks or anything like that. Depends on the type of exhaust you do. There's ways to cut corners to save money on some of the hardware. Just make sure that you buy quality fuel components and quality and we want to make sure the car is running cool, and of course a good installer and a good tuner, and you should be good to go. That's why I'm saying 12 to 18 grand, right? And then your car is stock, and it's going to be running in the mid fives, 60 to 130s. I'm assuming quarter mile time should be in the nines, high nines, hopefully, but it all depends on how good that 60 foot is. I don't know, right? Now, look at the VQ game though. VQ game, the car is about the same price or even cheaper, right? About 10 grand, depends on how much the car is, but most of us going to finance, and I was going to buy cash. But let's say if we finance it with both cars, right? Now, what's going to be invested? There's so much route you can go. You can go twin turbo. You can go single turbo. You can go mid mount twin turbo or single turbo. You can go front mount single turbo. You can go rear mount single turbo or rear mount twin turbo. There's so much configurations that you can get done on the Q50, and the prices could vary from you building your DIY kit or having a good welder to a kit that's already out there, like an AAM competition kit that I saw in another video, right? These things could actually be massaged depending on the price and quality of parts you actually choose to get to. But let's say if you want a quality supercharger kit, that's gonna be about $10,000, right, or less, or less. But a good quality 700 plus wheel horsepower supercharger kit, because the supercharger could really make a lot of power, right? But let's leave that at 10 grand. Then, of course, sometimes these kits will include fueling, and if it doesn't, then you have to buy additional fueling. But the good part is you don't need a high pressure fuel pump. You just need a return system, and you're gonna need to upgrade your your fuel tank, your fuel pressure in the tank. So once you upgrade that and injectors, that's some more money spent. Now you're sitting there thinking ahead, okay, cool, Boost. You're telling me that's like 10 grand for the turbo kit and another couple, 2, 3 grand for the fueling and then tuning. It sounds like the price is about the same. Yes. The price is actually very similar. There's ways to cut corners on both, right? But if you know you're aiming for a certain wheel horsepower, it seems that if you want to make the most out of a supercharger kit or even turbocharged kit, there are turbocharged kits out there that are like 5 to 6 grand that you can look for the Q50, but it all depends on the type of turbo they use and what is the top amount of wheel horsepower that turbo can go. Like how much can it actually flow for the engine, right? So, but usually they don't really undersize these turbos. It seems like they try to make sure that the turbos are a lot bigger so they can keep that boost a lot lower, just so that they have the coolest amount of charge attempts and the lowest amount of boost pressure that won't affect and keep torque as low as they can on the low to mid range, so that it doesn't ramp up and actually could throw a rod or lift the head, right? So it seems that the price range is very similar. And at this point, it's like, which one do you really want? Do you want the car that, I mean, the Z1's going to do what they're supposed to do, but do you want the Z1s, right, that are going to give you the power, the 700 wheel, the 650 to 700 wheel on tap, and be more of a power linear path, more of a kind of a linear power compared to like the Pures and the RTs, which hit really hard and then stay pretty good up top, but like, they taper off a little bit. But or do you want a 3.7 where you won't have as snappier starts, because usually the larger turbos, it takes a little while for the turbos to boost up, but once they're spooling, yeah, all your power is going to be from 4,000 and up, and it will keep going. It ain't going to be dying off, so it's really up to you. And honestly, you got to also think about the cons. What happens when catastrophic failure happens? If you lift the head, can you rebuild the motor? Sometimes you maybe can rebuild the motor if you lift the head on a VQ. If you lift the head on the VR, seems like no one's rebuilding those. We just toss those to the side. That seems like that's not really a thing yet, at least on the VR community. How pricey are these motors to replace in labor? How much can you find of these motors in the junkyard? Honestly, I think you can find a lot of 3.7s and a lot of 3.0Ts. But is a donor going to be good enough? You're purchasing an aftermarket, pretty much boosted motor versus an NA. Like, is it going to be good? These are things you have to sit there and think about, and you got to sit there and think, what are you using the car for? If it's your daily, right, you can run both cars. You could run both cars max effort. Which one will last the longest? And honestly, I don't even know. I don't think there's enough boosted 3.7s that can sit there and think that they can go ham all day every day at 600 horsepower. Like I just, like, there's not enough people who I could say that messing up. Like, we know enough hitters that's out there, but there's just not enough people who are doing it. It's way more common to turn up the boost on your VR30 rather than to slap a supercharger or a turbo kit on your VQ. So it's like we can't sit there and think that the VQ will just take the beating a lot more. Not saying it can't do it all day at 500 wheel. We assume it could, but we just don't know. But it's just the idea of ease of installation, too, because if you go with a supercharger, I'm just getting into the weeds now, but if you go with the supercharger on the VQ, it's easy for installation. You don't have to pull a motor out. It's like you just slap it on and call it a day. But the turbos, of course, you have to lift the car, or if it's like a rim mount or a mid mount kit, you could just keep the motor in and you just work on the exhaust. You know, there's ways to save the money. Just know that what are you looking for? Quick 60 to 130s? Are you looking for a quick quarter mile times? Are you looking for reliability? Honestly, it seems like it's going to be hit or miss between the two, and they're very close on where when things go bad, it goes bad. We just don't know. We just know that on the VR, you gotta have to drop the motor to make extra power. On the VQ, you might be able just to do a mid mount, a rear mount, or a supercharger to get the power. You know, well, rather than put the turbo right slap next to the motor. So there's ways to save money here. It all depends on just where you want to go. And I mean, I'll put it out there. Rear mounted turbo kits are making hell of a lot of power on other platforms, and there's people in this platform who have rear mounted turbo kits, which are way cheaper and easy to service because the turbo is technically to the rear of the car, or mid mount kits too. It all depends, and that could save you a lot of money, man. I've seen rear mounted kits, mid mount kits for like $5,000, or you can develop your own if you have a really good welder or someone who's a performance or tuning shop with a welder. Like, things could be done. It's very simple. This is not only for the Q50. Like, there's plenty of other platforms who do this type of stuff. The information is out there. You just can't look at the Infinity World to find those answers. You're gonna have to go to like the Chevy world, or a Chevy world, or I usually go to Chevys because they had a lot of rear mounted turbo kits. But there's plenty of other platforms that do rear mounted turbos and or mid mounts, and it's all very similar schematics on how to design these kits. And all you need is a good tuner, a good welder, and then after that, and someone to install it, and you're good to go. Honestly, so it's really up to you guys. I'm really happy to see this, and 662 is really good. I don't know if this car is gonna take that beating every day, all day. Manual, I don't know, because I just know that 500, and unless he built the motor, that 500 and something amount of torque still might be a little bit too much. Even though it's a manual, it might just be a little too much. He might just lift the head. I'm just going off what other tuners and other people have said this platform for over a decade. Might want to turn that torque down a little bit, on kill mode, because yeah, unless you build the rods and pistons on that and change out the head studs, and we'll go with head bolts or head studs, whatever you want to freaking call it, then it'll probably be a different outcome or a better outcome. And I'm not saying Racebox don't know what they're doing. I'm just saying that's what the owner wanted, and you gotta deliver the owner, and they signed that non-disclosure NDA, and that's it. So if something happens, we're not held responsible, you know. But outside that, guys, you have a good morning, good afternoon. I really appreciate you guys for support. Thanks you all for always hanging out with your boy Boost. It's been a minute. If you like videos like this where me sitting there just talking my ass off, if you forgot about me, definitely let me know. Hit the like and comment below. Keep talking, Boost. We miss you, man. I really appreciate it. All right. So otherwise than that, guys, you can add me at boostinmotion on IG, and that's about it. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. You guys have a good day.